So you open the chest and inside is a longsword. Oh cool, is it magical? No, it's just a longsword actually. Okay then. So are you gonna take it? No, I'm fine, I've got a sword. Well, but this one's better. Yeah, I know, but I just wanted something magical. Gosh, stop complaining. Be happy you even got loot. Hello and welcome to Grit and Glory, the brand new TTRPG that is ready to upgrade your gaming experience. I have great news. The Kickstarter for Grit and Glory, for this project to be actually, become a reality, it's live right now. It's from the 24th of September until the 24th of October. So go back it ASAP. But, you're here now. You might as well give us a little like, comment and subscribe. Just help appease the YouTube algorithm, grow the channel a little bit so we can get more amazing people like you on board. But that's enough with the very shameful plugging. On with the video. Playing D&D without magic items is almost impossible to balance. But worse than that, it's just boring and not as fun. I mean, with the balance system, if we look at marshals and casters, they are so unbalanced. Marshals are just so much weaker generally. And the way that a lot of DMs, myself included, have tried to fix this is providing them magic items. But then the casters feel left out because they haven't got any cool loot, so you provide them some, but then you have to give more to the marshals to make up for it, and then suddenly you realize that everything's getting so chaotic and random, and they use an item you forgot you even gave them to solve a problem quickly, and you realize that suddenly the CR doesn't even take magic items into account, so now your party can just stomp every encounter, even if it's supposed to be deadly. But I'm not here today to rant about the CR system and how bad that is. We all know that already, and there are 1,000,001 videos already talking about it. But I do have to say that some of the problems that it causes are alleviated, although albeit not completely eliminated, with the changes that I am making to weapons and armor in this video here. Weapons. Combat is the primary area for D&D. I mean, it's pretty much just a combat simulator. And for that reason, weapons are probably the most developed part of mundane items in the game. That isn't to say that they are super well developed though. They really aren't, which is why I'm making these changes. But what it does mean is that the rest of it is so underdeveloped that these look great by comparison. Bob Worldbuilder did an amazing video on this topic where he goes through the different statistics on why people choose the weapons that they do. I really highly recommend you go watch that video after this one. In fact, he's actually done a lot of videos on this topic. But to put it simply, it pretty much boils down to two characteristics. Are you proficient in the weapon, and how much damage does it deal? They don't really care about any of the other characteristics or properties that weapons have in D&D. And this isn't on the fault of the players. They are playing the way that they want to play, and the way that most people would. It's mostly on the fault of the characteristics themselves and how little they do. Nobody really cares if the weapon has the light property unless you're playing a rogue. And definitely no one cares if the weapon has versatile, because you're pretty much always going to know if you're using it in one hand or two hands. And if you're going to use it in two hands, you'll probably just use a greatsword anyway. But in 2024, they added weapon masteries, things like Nick and Graze, which really changed the way that you can use weapons, which is amazing, right? Yeah, it genuinely is. I think that is a great addition to the game, and it's one of the things that I think is my favorite parts about the changes in 2024. But in all honesty, I just think it's too little, too late. So how do Grit and Glory do things differently? Well, firstly, we have 3 different skill tiers for weapons. Not just the simple, stupid ones that no one uses, and the martial ones that basically every fighting class gets access to at level 1. Instead, we have simple, martial, and elite weapons. These are categories that divide how strong a weapon is, and you don't just automatically get access to all of them when you become a martial fighter at level 1. You actually have to invest in proficiencies to gain access to these weapons. Just like how our skills have a 5-tier proficiency system, so do our weapon types. You can see more about how skills work in this video here. So at level 1, even as a martial, you don't automatically just get access to every single martial weapon. You have to actually take those talents and spend those talent points to gain that ability. Now, some of you might think that this is kind of like a tax on martials, and that it will even further separate the divide in that caster martial unbalance and hold martials back. But I promise you, in Grit and Glory, martials are not held back at all. We've managed to level that playing field tremendously well. And the thing is that separating them like this means that the excess talent points you might want to spend on that, you don't necessarily have to. If you're wanting to spend them elsewhere, you could do so and gain some really cool abilities. So doing this means that you can actually customize and make your character a lot more fun. It means monk type builds can actually be just as utility and deal just as much damage as the fighter. But let's get back to weapons. How do weapons work exactly? Well, first we divide them into 8 different categories. So we have ranged, thrown, swords, axes, hammers, polearms, flails, and unarmed. Each of the 8 different types has different weapon techniques and ways that it can be used and special characteristics. But more than that, every individual weapon in a type has its own properties that allow it to be used in new and creative ways. Things like mechanical means that it could malfunction on a critical failure and you might have to fix it before it can be used again. Chaotic means you could be hitting yourself with it if you miss. And things like slow means that it takes extra AP to attack with each round. But those are just the negative traits. There's also positive ones. You have things like guard, which provide extra defenses when being wielded. There's things like whip, which give a massive damage boost if you hit people at the very end of your reach, although you can't have that one without having the reach property as well. And my personal favorite, the hooked property. This allows you to have massive bonuses when attempting to trip people with your weapon. But more than all of this, we've actually created a guide for you to make your own weapons at home. This is similar to the spellcrafting rules that we've made, which you can see a video on right there. Basically, each weapon property has a point value, and you can mix and match these point values to create the type of weapon that you want to make. And then your character in the game world can forge it so they can use it on their adventures. So how about we create a weapon together? Let's do the Meteor Hammer. It's one of my personal favorite weapons that we haven't already got in the book. I mean, obviously there are a lot of weapons that we haven't got in the book. We couldn't fit every single weapon ever made in it. It's why we have these tools for you to make your own. What we select now is the weapon type. Now it is a Meteor Hammer, so I'm obviously going to select hammer, but you swing it around a hell of a lot like a flail. So I'm also going to select flail. Now I'm also going to do something here that isn't done in the core rules, but it is something you can do. I'm going to select a third weapon type. This is thrown. That's because the way you use a Meteor Hammer is very different to something like a whip, and you actually do throw it a fair distance. So even though usually you only have 1 or 2 types, you can select as many as you'd like. So since hammer gives us 1 point, flail gives us 1 point, and thrown gives us 0, that means we end up on 0. That's because you don't actually get to add together all of the points that you take from these types. Because you can select however many you'd like, you might as well have just selected all 8 if you want to get loads of points, but instead you actually just take the lowest amount of the ones you've selected. So because that is 0 for thrown, we end up on 0 points. But thrown does give us the thrown property, which gives us that increased range. So that point was not wasted. Now we have to pick between the 3 different skill categories. Do we want simple, martial, or elite? Now I don't know about you, but that looks pretty difficult to me. So I'm going to go with elite for this, and that gives us 2 extra points. Now we move on to speed. Now we could select fast here, and that would mean that we would be down to -1 points because we have 2 and that costs 3. Now you can't end on negatives, but going through you can go into the negatives. It just means we'd have to take a bad trait to go back up later on. However, for now, I think we'll just select medium standard speed for 0 points. And finally, we're on to properties. That is split into 2 different categories. We have the bad properties and we have the good properties. The bad ones, actually, we take them because they give us more points to spend to take the good ones. So let's look at the bad ones first. Which ones fit here? Now, I would definitely call that unwieldy. And if it isn't chaotic, I have no idea what is. Now, I also know for a fact you have to use 2 hands when spinning a meteor hammer, and you have to wind it up before you can hit. So I'm going to add both of those as well. Now, with all of those negative traits added on, we've gained 7 points. With our 2 from earlier, that puts us to 9 total.
Average! Hey!
So let's look at the good properties now. Well, I definitely think that this thing is hard hitting. I mean, I wouldn't want to get hit with it. And it is something that you could apply the reach property to, but because we've gone a kind of unconventional route and added the thrown property instead, we don't need reach. So what now? We've just spent the 1 point on hard hitting and we have 8 points left. Are they completely wasted? Not quite. We haven't added the last and most vital part of a weapon. The damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
With 8 whole points to spend on damage, we could dump all of them into here and get a 2d10 beast that is going to demolish people that we throw this rock at. The only thing is that if we do this, then the way that our weapon works on a technical basis is that we are actually just lobbing the entire meteor hammer at our enemies. And that's not how a meteor hammer works. Part of what makes it so good is the rope that you hold in your offhand that allows you to pull your hammer back to you after every attack. So how do we implement that? There's no basic property that allows us to do it. So what we're going to use is the special property. There are some properties in Grit and Glory that have this for any unique use that isn't general enough to be a basic property. They are sometimes negative, sometimes positive, sometimes situational. So there's no set cost for it. It's something you'd have to discuss with your GM. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to add the return ability. So when we make an attack with it, we can pull it back using, let's say, a DC 10 strength check. Something fairly easy and reliable, but not just something automatic. This, I think, should only cost us about 2 points, meaning we'd still have 6 points left to spend on damage.
Woo! Yeah, baby!
So now you know all about weapons in Grit and Glory. Now, on to armor. Now, armor in Grit and Glory is fairly similar to D&D, but there is one major difference, and this is damage reduction. So when you get hit by a piece of weaponry or anything really, the armor takes a bit of the damage for you. Now, this is because in D&D, if you get hit by a sword in full plate armor, or if you get hit by a sword when you are naked, you take the exact same amount of damage. And I just think that that is stupid. So what we've done in Grit and Glory is we've actually given these items a damage reduction amount. So every time you get hit, they take a bit of that damage instead. But
then nothing someone says before the word but really counts.
if you do take too much damage, this can actually possibly break your armor. This is because in Grit and Glory, we have what are called tiers of armor and weapons. So we have reinforced, which is the best, standard, and ruined. So obviously, however good your armor is on this tier list will affect how much damage they reduce, and your weapon might deal more damage, and you might even be harder to hit in the first place. But taking too much will reduce you by a whole category. And if you are at ruined and you hit 0 HP on your armor, then the armor is destroyed for good. All in all, this level of depth and progression with mundane items means that you can actually have a campaign that goes on for a little while before you get flooded with magical items. Plus, the addition of unarmored as a type of weapon category is really fun. It's allowed me to add things like gauntlets and knuckle wraps for monk types to use and still feel like they have a reason to open that chest to try and get loot. So if you're ready to rock up like that tank in a beast of plate armor with your paladin giant great sword ready to smite down fools and, you know, actually feel powerful, then it's time to take a swing at Grit and Glory. I hope you enjoyed that video in all of its nerdy glory, but now is time to talk about the Kickstarter. It is really important. I can't stress this enough. As much work as me and the team have put into this game, it simply cannot become a reality without the backing of people like you. So, if you can go and check it out in the description below, that would actually help us with getting these books printed and getting them shipped out to tables like yourself. In the meantime though, you know, once you've finished all of that and given all of your money to us, you might as well check out some of these two videos here.